DSCR loans get denied all the time, and it typically doesn't come down to the buyer, but the actual property and the deal itself. Here's everything you'd want to know and all the pitfalls that could come up during the process. One of the bigger misconceptions I see all the time is the fact that an investor might think that having a higher credit score makes it a lot easier to get approved in underwriting. Really, credit is mainly used by the lender to price out your loan, which will then dictate your loan options and pricing, right? So it's going to make a big impact with the overall terms that lender's going to give, but it's not going to help compensate if you have lower rental income or can't qualify in other areas. By the time the appraisal is back, this is typically where a loan either gets exposed and denied or gets its final approval. Like any other loan, the appraiser, of course, is going to come back with that report. What's going to say in their eyes what the value of that property is worth. And like any other loan, the lender's only going to recognize the lower of the purchase price or the appraised value. So first thing you look at is the value. The second thing that's going to be crucial for a DSCR loan is going to be the appraiser's rent schedule, also known as a 1007 rent schedule for a long-term rental one-unit property. The 1007 rent schedule on the appraisal is going to play a pretty crucial role. It's going to tell the lender what the appraiser's estimate was for what that property would rent for as a long-term rental. So of course, that'll dictate the DSCR ratio, which will therefore make a huge impact on if the property even qualifies or if you have to make an adjustment to the down payment or a loan structure. One quick tip I did want to give on the topic of appraisal is if you do have a low value, either the property value or the rent value, go ahead and file a reconsideration of value and appeal that value back to the appraiser. Not a lot of lenders and loan officers take that extra step. In 2025, last year, I think I've submitted 5 total reconsideration of values, and we got additional value in 4 of those 5 reports. So this is a crucial step. It takes you 5-10 minutes, find a couple comps, and at least throw it back at the appraiser and see if they might give you a little bit extra value if you do have a low appraisal. Easily the number one reason I hear about DSCR loans getting denied is because they have too high of rental estimates going into the transaction. So of course, the appraiser, they're going to have the final say. They're going to make that final call of what that property would rent for. Your job as the investor is to try to match that number and be as realistic as possible. Be a little bit conservative, because if the rent's higher than what you actually have going in, it's probably going to be a pretty small benefit. But if it's a lot lower, there's going to be a huge downside, and your loan can actually get turned down if you don't have that 1-to-1 DSCR ratio. So best way to find the rental comp data is to have your investor-friendly realtor get closed listings from the NMLS to come up with those numbers. You can also check yourself on Zillow, find out what other properties are renting for in that subdivision or in that community, ideally from the past 3 to 6 months. That's typically what I see appraisers use on their reports. So make sure to do your homework. This is the most common reason that a DSCR loan can get denied, is because you're not conservative going into the transaction. It's easy to be fixated on the down payment, but every lender is going to have some sort of requirement for reserves. So 1 month worth of mortgage payments is equivalent to 1 month worth of reserves. Lenders want to see that you have some cash in the bank, to a little bit of a cushion going into the transaction, to show that you have cash to cover a big ticket item expense. Maybe you have a roof issue or electrical, AC blows out early on. They want to see you have some sort of cash in the bank just to make your first couple of payments. Typically, the lender is going to ask for 3 to 6 months worth of reserves. It can vary a little bit depending on the loan type. And occasionally, if you do own a large rental portfolio, they may ask for additional reserves. The final component is if your deal is structured incorrectly from the get-go. And this is 100% on your loan officer or your lender. This can be as simple as expecting to go off of short-term rental income when the underwriter actually wants long-term rental income, maybe because you as the investor doesn't have experience. So a lot of this is on your loan officer, making sure they're very experienced with DSCR loans. It can be as simple as going into the transaction, expecting to do a small 15% down payment, but knowing that if the appraisal comes in a little bit lower, there's no backup plan. So thinking through all the different contingencies, all the different outcomes going into the transaction will make sure everything will go through that much smoother on the back end of the transaction. So any questions you guys have, please shoot me a comment. If you need help comping out a property, shoot me a message.